Let me introduce Joe Deane. John has already touched off it. Joe is on the record that he always wanted to go farming, but he wanted to go beef farming when he first started out in his agricultural career. Agriculture college in 2006, he wanted to be a beef farmer. He didn't milk a cow until he was 19 years of age. After completing a level 7 in Clonakilty, he then went to Aberystwyth in Wales, where he did his level 8, and after that he travelled to New Zealand, which gave him the confidence, I suppose, for where he is now. Originally from a small beef farm in East Cork, but with his wife Leisha, they've grown their dairy business by leasing farms and growing the business with good people to where they are today, where they're just going to milk just shy of 500 cows across 3 leased farms in 2025. To hear his story, please welcome Joe.
Thanks, Jack. Hello everyone. So as Jack said, I'm married to Leisha, with 2 boys. Seen a picture there, Jack and Michael. So I'm from Trebolegan, very near the holiday centre in East Cork. My father would have been a full-time plumber, part-time farmer, so it was only ever just dry stock at home. So as Jack said, I wanted to go farming, knew I wanted to go full-time farming, thought that was going to be beef farming, but I suppose I wasn't. Long learning that the viability of that probably wasn't going to be an option. So did a level 7 in Clonakilty and CIT, and followed that up with a year in Aberystwyth University to get my level 8 equivalent over there. I would have done my work placement in New Zealand for a few months in college, and I really wanted to go back there, so that was the first taste I got for milking cows. Actually, that was the first place I milked cows really. So got a taste for it there, and wanted to go back once I was finished. So went back for about 18 months, worked on a couple of farms there, large scale farms, learned an awful lot, I must say, just what's possible, just at such scale and simplicity, so really took a lot from that. Returned home then, I suppose, in about 2012, in 2011, started 2012, and started managing farms for a few years in the Cork area. So whilst I was managing these farms, I was building up young stock on my home farm. I would have started with beef calves and then started buying heifer calves, dairy heifer calves, and I suppose I just kept on to them, and when they came to fruition I would have leased them into the farms I was working on. I got the opportunity, I suppose I was lucky to be able to do that. So by the time I was coming close to leasing a farm, I had a sizable enough amount of stock built up to be able to take that step. It was a big help. I suppose it was good to learn. I suppose I learned a lot in the time that I was managing these farms as well. Just learning someone else's money, I suppose, making mistakes with someone else's money was handy as well. That was all good. So where we are now, from I suppose where we started, 2017, I took on first leased farm in just outside Carrigaline. So we would have started out that first year there with 125 cows, and through taking on more land, we've increased this. That was increased to about 200 cows. We might have peaked about 210 cows by 2020. So up to that point, I suppose it was mainly just myself working in farms with part-time help. Mainly part-time. I suppose I took on the first full-time person in 2020 when a second farm came along. It's pretty much inside the town of Carrigaline, so it was very convenient between the 2 farms. There's only 6 kilometres between them, and myself and my wife, we bought a house in Carrigaline, so we're living inside the town of Carrigaline as well, so very convenient. This was about a 120 cow farm, and had more accommodation and storage and stuff, so the 2 farms complemented each other quite nicely from a labour point of view, just all those logistics. So this farm, this second unit, let's say, is increasing to 150 cows this spring, through taking on a bit more ground last year. And then in 2023, we took on a farm in Carritoon, again on a 10-year lease, and so we have 150 cows on that farm to cap down for this spring. 2024 marked the end of the lease on the first farm that I took on, so that farm has been sold. So to replace that, we're taking on a farm up near Mitchelstown for 2025, and it's a leased farm, 10-year lease in a 50-50 partnership with a first cousin of mine, Paul Kingston. So Paul is coming to the business now in that regard. So that's that side of it. I suppose main thing we're going to talk about is the profitability in our business. I suppose 4 key aspects that I see that are the key to profitability in our business: the team, system, technical performance, and cost control. So firstly on the team, our team, this kind of way we run it is there's 1 full-time staff member in each farm. They're backed up then with a really good core of relief milkers. I suppose my role is kind of more floating between the farms. I don't get tied into too many milkings if I can, especially in more recent years. So we've Aaron Lyons. Aaron's been close to Carrigaline myself, down no direction. He's been in the business for the last 4 years. Yeah, a very good young lad, built his way up. He's taken on a lot more experience every year, more responsibilities every year. Mark Deane. Mark and myself have been friends going back over the years, and Mark came on to the business last year, so it's his 2nd season now, and Mark has cows leased into the business. So Mark is keen to take on a farm himself, lease a farm himself in his own right, so hopefully that'll come up for him in the next year or 2, all going well. So Mark runs the farm in Carritool for us. And then we have David Walonga. David's from Kenya, so David came on board in 2023, so again, very important part of the team. I suppose just again, part of the broader part of the team, the R1s are mainly contract reared, so Mark actually would have reared most of them last year on his own farm, and will continue on rent a farm that he's rented, and he'll continue to do so this year. R2s then are reared on my home farm, my original 20-hectare home farm. We have a bit more land with it, I suppose, rented, and my father largely looks after those stock. And then we have an excellent team of contractors as well, supporting the business. Everything from fertilizer, beating out silage, everything is contracted out. We feed silage on one of the farms, but that's it. Everything else is contracted out pretty much. So yeah, team is very, very important. Our system will be the second part of it. We run a very simple, what I see as a simple, repeatable system. I suppose it has to be repeatable for running multiple units. That's quite important. We crossbred herd, functional cows. Look, there's better cows out there. Decent cows, decent performance. They work hard at times, but they're able to. That's the type of system we run. We've had a good, strong focus on incorporating clover in the last few years, varying levels of success. Everyone has that experience, I suppose, but we're pushing on with it. We have reduced chemical in quite a bit due to it. Again, we've had a couple of tough years, so it's hard to tell whether we've grown less grass in the last 2 years, I suppose, but what we traditionally would have had. So whether that's down to less fertilizer or just poor years, I don't know. We don't overstock the farm, so the average of 2.75 to 3 average for the years on the milking platform. It's the same kind of across the farms, just keep it simple. I think an important part of it is we don't chase that last 10%. Even I'm kind of happy with 80 to 90% performance on the farm. If the guys are achieving that, I'm more than happy. I don't think it's worth chasing that last 10% for our business with the scale we're at. So I think that's an important part of it. Empty cows we sold from end of August. After scanning, we just reduced the stocking rate at the back end to try and reduce the reliance on bought-in feed at that point, and voluntary culls would go into September, start of October. We do the same thing every year, doesn't matter what milk price is, just do the same thing. We sow 4 to 5% of the milking platform in fodder beet for back-end grazing, just complements our system quite nicely. We wouldn't feed any more than maybe 1 or 2 kilos of ration from September onwards when we start feeding beet. And it also reduces the reliance on feeding out bale silage, which doesn't really suit when we don't have machinery ourselves. So yeah, it works quite nicely. Technical performance on a farm. Look, there's definitely a lot of people in this room will be achieving higher, I'd say, a lot on technical performance than us. But I'd say we're relatively consistent and we have good strong performance. So our average for 2024 was 11.5 tonnes grown. Our rolling average would be probably 12.5 tonnes. To be fair, any back calculations we do, our utilisation figures would be quite high, so we possibly are going a bit more than we're measuring, I would say, at times. But we averaged for 24 nitrogen was 185 kgs across the farms. Average milk solids per cow was 445, that's off average cows. So there's room for improvement, definitely. I think the last 2 springs have hit us hard really with production, with the system we've been running. So whether that needs to be tweaked or not, I don't know. But we fed 750 kgs of concentrate between palm kernel and ration powder this year. Considering the year, I suppose it wasn't too bad the way it turned out, but we'd have a target of 500 or less really, just to keep that same routine every year. Plan started calving delayed slightly for this spring. We're the 9th of February. We would have had a 92% 6-week calving rate last year. Cost control, probably very crucial part of our business as well. We'd have a greater focus on cost control than chasing production. Any decisions we make with regards to grazing or feeding ration and things the focus is on cost, it's not on chasing production basically. In 2024 we had a gross output of €6.93 per kg of milk solids. Working farmer expenses were €3.40, and that's excluding labour and land lease. We'd a common operating profit of $2,650. That would be probably slightly below average for the last 3 years. Had a massive year in 22, poor year in 23, and 24 turned out to be a good year, so we can't complain. That would be the average across the 3 farms. I suppose we analyse all costs every year, see where we can make savings, and as we go through the year, every cost is analysed. Do we need to spend this money? I'm a member of a purchasing group, which is probably a big help to the business really for getting competitive prices, and also saves a lot of work in having to go and price every product competitively. Our labour costs would be quite high. In old money, we're in about 8 cents a litre for labour, which is probably on the high side, but I wouldn't like to be skimping on labour. I view it as an investment, I suppose, and I think we get the return by just in the profitability that it generates by people performing well, and just minimal stress really in the business, and I suppose it's needed with a multi-unit business. So we wouldn't skimp on the labour really, to be honest. It's important. Future plans for ourselves in the business. On a personal level, I suppose we are hoping to build a house in 2025, subject to planning. Start building in a land that we bought in Carricktool, so we're kind of hoping to move out of the town and into the countryside a bit. From a business point of view, keep growing, that's the plan. Currently, I suppose, through leasing land, and hopefully continue with people investing with me. The likes of myself and my cousin Paul are doing now, grow the business in that regard for people invested in. I suppose it's less risk for me and less stress for me. The 3 to 7 year plan, I suppose, is to purchase the large farm, 150 plus cows. It'd be nice to think you could generate a 7 or 8% return on investment, but I suppose that's probably challenging with current land prices, so we'll see where that takes us. But kind of happy with the returns we're generating with the lease model at the moment, that we've been consistently hitting, so 25% plus really return, so couldn't really argue with it. Probably hard to accept much less. So that's an overview of our business. Thank you.